What's 1 plus 1? If I asked you that, probably you just go, 2. 2. Put very simply, 2. You might go, why are you asking that? Is there a punchline there? But 2, that's easy. But a question that simple causes so many MAGA Republicans to go, why are you asking that? You suck. Fake news. We're moving on. I'm thinking about 2 plus 2, which is 16. So, boom, nailed it. Bear with me on the analogy. But the point is, you have here Don Jr. I'll show you a flashback example of Don Jr. as well. And then other folks as well, in addition to that, where you have one MAGA Republican after another being so irritated by such a simple question, as simple as 1 plus 1. And in the case of what we're actually talking about, it's not math, it's the 2020 election. They just can't get themselves to honestly interact with that question. So here's the most recent example of Don Jr. Let's see how he handled it.
Was you his objective
the most
tonight?
important moment came near the end when Vance refused to say that Biden won the 2020 election. What was your reaction?
Listen, I think people understand what's going on, and we're not worried about that. We're worried about this election. Hopefully people are watching the games that have been played. I don't think many people believe that Joe Biden lost 18 of 19 bellwether counties and most of the other counties in the world, but managed to only overperform in Philadelphia, Atlanta, Detroit. I mean, we understand that. I think they have a handle on all of that right now. The reality is now you're in a different world. You had 4 years under the Harris-Biden administration. You had 4 years under Trump. When were you better off? When were we safer? The world is going to hell in a handbasket because they see the weakness that is exuded by this administration, the things that they focus on.
You know, I wish I could find, and maybe I can real quickly before we go further.
I don't have a short memory. I do have some numbers here. 4 years ago, the Dow was at 18,000. It's now over 40,000. 4 years ago, unemployment was 9.2%. It's now 4.2%. Explain.
And this is in a conversation with Carrie Lake, but it was just off the top of my head. If they would honestly engage with even that topic of no one thinks they're better off now than 4 years ago, they'd realize, oh, we were in the middle of a global crisis 4 years ago. Yeah, we're better off. And then they would go, oh, but what about before the global crisis? And we've addressed why, if you honestly assess both, with everything included, you come to the conclusion that strong record of Biden Harris, disastrous record of Trump. But we don't have time for that because we need to stick on the core question. What? We're not talking about then, even though Trump just brought it up at a rally, because we're talking about later, and it doesn't matter that he tried to block the peaceful transfer of power because Biden and Harris did something with the border. Last time, the good liars confronted Donald Trump Jr. with a similar question. It didn't go well.
Who do you think won the 2020 election?
I think Donald Trump did.
But why? Because there's kind of a lack of, evidence, right?
You know, it's the whole not being able to complete a sentence by the existing president, someone who can sit there and talk about losing his Corvette.
What about the 7 million votes? What about the 7 million votes?
Ending our American energy.
And this clip is just saying, no, I will not be played. Let me see if I can.
It's about every failure imaginable from the Biden.
But what about all the lost court cases, though? Like all of them. So I just talked to Don Jr. I asked him who won the 2020 election. He said that his dad did, but then he didn't have any proof, and he started talking about all kinds of stuff that had nothing to do with the election at all.
Yeah, we talked about this clip before, so I'll try not to spend too much time on that before going on other clips, but what a weird argument. Did you hear what Don Jr. listed? I dispute all the things that he said, but all the things he said were about the job Biden's currently doing as president. How can you say you know an election was stolen because afterwards people realized, according to Don Jr., that Biden was doing a bad job? But the election happened before those things. So I don't understand that. Another thing that strikes me about this clip, just really quickly, it's giving me a lot of trouble, but I'll refresh and see if I can watch here. Let me mute it and watch. Walking behind him is Kimberly Guilfoyle. I'm not judging anyone's relationship, but who walks that far behind their significant other? That's kind of weird. And since she wasn't that shot, just a quick flashback to this speech of hers.
But I'm here to tell you, don't lose hope. On a personal note, I can tell you that I am as hopeful as ever. Because Americans from all walks of life have had enough of the Democrats' decline, and we are ready, we are willing, and we are able to spark a new era of American exceptionalism. You can clap for that.
That's too good to only play once, you know? So there's the Kimberly Guilfoyle, Donald Trump Jr. couple. We move on from that to Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, or J.D. Mandel, as Trump once described him as. And here, the good liars again ask such a simple question. 1 + 1, who won the election? Come on, quick, easy. And look what J.D. Vance says.
Who won the 2020 election? Could you just answer, did Donald Trump win, yes or no?
Yes.
He did win?
Yep.
So will you concede? Will you concede? If your opponent gets more votes, will you concede?
I really feel bad for you, man.
I just want to know, if your opponent gets more votes, will you concede?
So he says, yes, Trump won the election, even though, of course, Trump didn't. And I feel bad for you. Then doesn't say anything else. Why do you feel bad for him? And we're having too much fun today. We've just had a great day here at the office, you know, when things are just working. So I don't want to get into a whole thing that will bring my mood down. But it's so upsetting that they continue to assert that it's completely ridiculous to sort of care about this whole election thing that we have going on in America, this whole democracy thing, and that it's not relevant whether or not they accept the legitimacy of that democracy. That's what we're talking about. But I won't go any further because it gets me really upset. Here, at another rally, Vance, since at the debate he couldn't answer the question directly, gets asked again.
Trump often describes the 2020 election as rigged, and he often uses the term to describe what he sees as fraud in that election. Trump said that again yesterday at a rally in Michigan. Senator, would you use that specific term rigged? You have said in the past you have concerns about election integrity in the past and going forward, and do you concur with the president that the 2020 election was rigged?
Well, look, So I'm from Ohio. I'm not from the South, but I think in the South there's a phrase that really works. Bless your heart.
Isn't that so funny? Bless your heart. Bless your heart. Why the hell would I tell you what I believe about the foundational part of our entire system? Bless your heart. I think they say in the South, bless your heart. Tim Scott was asked about this as well.
He still said the election was stolen, but even though it wasn't stolen, does that bother you that he wouldn't accept the results of an election?
Continues to focus on what the American people want to talk about, which is their paychecks under the Harris.
But he won't accept the results of the election.
Biden-Harris administration, the average family has lost $1,000.
And then they go, why do you keep bringing this up? Trump wants to, bless your heart, but Trump wants to talk about the things that matter to people. And that's why yesterday, or the day before, but this week, he said the election was rigged. He's saying it at his rallies. He is. We didn't bring it up. I will bring it up even if he doesn't. But in this instance, he brought it up. Your guy. If you're saying when Trump speaks, he's speaking about what matters to the American people, then apparently he thinks that matters to them. He's asserting it to be rigged. Have just like one singular spine for a second, please. Just have one of all of the people, can one of you have a spine and use it for a second and go, no, of course it wasn't rigged. Next question. Then it's over. But then I'll ask you why you support the guy who's been deteriorating the foundation of our democracy, which is why they don't want to actually answer that. But we are in a really scary time where, because Trump, as one Republican called him, Orange Jesus, because he has taken over, grabbed the Republican Party and made it his completely in its identity, all of these people every day choose Trump over our democracy. And MAGA, if you're out there, I saw someone in the background of this shot of JD Vance. You can show this, Jade, just nodding and going, oh my gosh, oh, why are they asking about this? What the hell? It's so annoying. That's how I picture the person's voice was. Think about this. Imagine if, when Trump won in 2016, Obama worked with Hillary Clinton to get fake electors counted, was pressuring local officials to prevent the lawful certification of their state count. A bunch of Antifa and Black Lives Matter stormed the Capitol to prevent the certification of the election. And then every single moment after that, Democrats pretended like Trump never won. And you would say they did do that, but they didn't. There was no attempt to prevent the peaceful transfer of power. Zero. And then, in this moment, if Trump wins, by your logic, yours, not ours, yours, not ours, yours, not ours, okay? Let's be clear. Kamala Harris could refuse to certify a Trump win as vice president and could say, no, sorry, Biden's going to stay in office. That's what Trump wanted Pence to do. Remember. So Kamala Harris can do that for her own election and say, oh, I'm not going to certify Trump's win. By your logic, not mine. Do you hear? Do you hear? Do you feel? Do you see? Does that make sense to you? That's bad. So let's keep arguing about everything else. Let's do it. You'll say, go Republicans for the economy. And I'll say, Democrats have been better for the last century. Every single study that's ever been done. And you'll say, but the border. And I'll say, but the border security bill. And you'll say, taxes. And I'll say, what about it? And then we can go there. It's going to be great. I'm excited. I'm salivating about the idea of talking about those issues with you. But first, you have to acknowledge, oh, wait, let me take off this hat. I can't support someone who thinks Kamala Harris, if we're going to be logically consistent, could refuse to certify Trump's win if he wins. But in the case of reality, Trump's the one making that argument for himself, based on Pence. Please, 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 hear me. But there it is. Very, very strange. They can't answer the simplest of questions. Who won the 2020 election? And that gives you a sense of how far MAGA has gone away from a basic American principle of respecting our elections no matter who wins. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Support the show by clicking the join button below. We're going to have, you can tell the mood is all right today. You can only imagine what that means for the bonus show. It's going to get crazy. I have a little behind the scenes clip for you from a few weeks ago when something really funny happened on the show that we had to edit out because it was a little, but we'll also show you when the power went out today while we were recording and the camera was still recording, so we can play that and so many great things on the bonus show. Join button below.